So hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another Assetto Corsa Competizione video. But here we aren't actually in Assetto Corsa just now. I've just logged into the simulator game. I can't remember what it's called now, Flight Simulator. And for all of those people that watch these videos from around the world, you sometimes wonder where some of these circuits are. Well, today we're going to be at Donington Park circuit, a UK circuit. We've got a lot to cover in this video, so let's get into it. We're going to be doing a setup at Donington Park in the McLaren 720S, but I've got loads to cover in this video, so please do stay tuned. There's a lot more in this video than just me going into this in a completely different game. But as you can see right here, we've got East Midlands Airport, which is just kind of south of Nottingham, and the circuit, as you said, no doubt you've driven on before, but every now and then you get aircraft flying over the top of the circuit, which you can see just here off to the left hand side, and that's because it's so close to quite a busy airport. So we're going to set off here, and we're just going to fly in this little microlight. It's like a hang glider really, just to take a little tour over the circuit, and then we'll get into the video itself. Now, coming up in December, just a quick shout out to Peter Michaels, something like, yeah, I'm sure it's Peter Michael, who's got a charity event that he's got coming up in December. I think it's on the 9th and the 10th of December, running all the British circuits. I think he's doing a 24-hour charity event, which he's trying to get. I think he's trying to get at least 100 people, teams of between 2 and 4. So teams of 2 and 4 at the event. I think he's doing Silverstone, Brands Hatch, Donington, and Alton Park. And yeah, it's for a great cause, the Alan Shearer Foundation, which supports mostly disabled children and adults, and they offer a wide range of I think activities and venues that they can sort of look after people at these venues. I'm sure there's a lot more goes into the foundation itself, but he's trying to raise money for that event or for that charity, and please do follow the link in the description for that event on the 9th or 10th. So yeah, thank you for that. All the best, Peter, and let's get into this video. So let's take that handbrake off. I can never remember exactly what I'm doing on this game. So here we are in this little microlight, and it really is a cracking game. I tend to use it just for visiting areas around the world that I'll probably never get to go to, but Donington Park is certainly a circuit that I have been to, and just alongside Donington Park there is actually the Formula 1 museum, which I had the pleasure of visiting not so long ago now. But if anyone's interested in Formula 1 and the history of the sport, there's certainly a heck of a lot in the museum to pique your interest. But I had a little walk round to the Donington Park circuit just after that, after visiting that. We could probably even see it. It's literally just around the corner, but we can see just coming up on the circuit here. Hopefully I don't crash this thing. hard to, yeah, so we're just coming down the long straight. I think it's Dunlop Straight it's called now. I'm sure it used to be called something else. Through the little chicane, normally scrubbing the tyre barrier. Through the hairpin. I don't think this will turn that hairpin that quickly. But you can see turn 1 as we come round. Really is a technical circuit, Donington. And I've certainly learnt that through setting the car up here, setting up the McLaren. And I'll certainly cover it very much in detail. On my YouTube channel, Mr. Shimera, I think, mentioned that he would like to see a little bit more in-depth detail as to why I've made certain changes within the setup itself, and I'll certainly try and cover that in this video. That really is what this video's all about, the changes that I'm sort of making and why I'm making them. I'm not even sure if this building on the end here is the museum, but it really did feel like part of the circuit. You were right alongside it, so if you are interested in visiting, there's definitely more to do around Donington. But yeah, as you can see, a lovely area of the country. It really does amaze me, this game, some of the detail. We could even, we could try and land it on the circuit. Looks like a bit of a golf course maybe alongside. No, maybe not. I'll just put it down in this field, I think. Landing it with the engine off. There we go. I think that's a successful landing. And we'll leave that there and we'll jump over to Assetto Corsa Competizione. So here we are then back in Assetto Corsa Competizione. You can see there 127.6 is what I've been able to set in the McLaren that we're going to be driving. I think I was using 15 Celsius with, I think I had 30% cloud cover. We'll go for 20% cloud cover, that should be enough. And we're going to need to set this on the optimum track levels. I was watching James Baldwin on his own channel actually trying to beat his, I think it was his 2019-2020 lap time here, using some sort of weather. It was like a weather readout from the very day that he set the lap time, and he was pretty close to it. I think he set a 127 flat, well, 127.1, something like that. But he didn't actually better that. I think he got a 127.3 maybe. But it's very hard to get anywhere near that in this game. It does feel that we are a tiny bit slower on console. So as you can see, I'm using my wheel, and the thing I've found here, which was mentioned, I think Lawrence Juice mentioned this, if we just switch to the controller, it was already on the controller there, but if we come into our setup, I'm just using my wheel here. I'm not ever using the controller at all. So I'm still selecting my setups, and I can load them in perfectly. And then you're literally just coming back out. I haven't loaded a setup in yet. We're just going to look at something else before I look at this setup. But come back to the options menu and just come back to controls and select that, and away you go. It's that simple. So we're going to choose the aggressive setup for this little scenario that I'm going to run here. I'm not going to change anything on here. I'm not going to change anything on there either. We're just going to take out a little bit of fuel, change the brake ducts that we normally would do. Still not going to change anything on here or here. I'm just going to close out this rear brake duct and slightly on the front. Two things that I would always do, and we're just going to turn a few laps here so that you can kind of get an understanding as to where I go with adjusting a setup and sort of why I'm making the changes that I make.
Green light. Go, go, go.
So just get in the car, my usual seating position, and I'm just going to adjust this MFD at the side here so I can see the brake balance and the traction control. Just turn that down a tiny bit. I do like to hear the engine quite a lot. It does tell you a lot about what the car's doing as well. So turn 1 really does open up quite well. Don't need to run too wide. Staying tight on this right hand side as we come through here. And again, you want to stay close on the left hand side. Going to be braking 2 shifts down, and we're going to try and pick up this inside curb just a tiny bit, run wide out onto the green stuff a tiny bit, and then it's pretty much a straight line corner through here. We'll be up to 4th gear, absolutely flat out, trying to brake in a straight line down into 3rd, and I'm going to say down into 2nd at the minute. We're going to come through here, try not to clip that inside curb because it really does unsettle the car hugely. So we're going to be coming up over the hill again, and I'd probably shift down to 2nd around here, trying to clip the white and red section of that inside curb, and then be back on the powers straight away. Down this long back straight. Always a tricky sort of braking point. Somewhere between these two, somewhere around here probably. I'd come down to 2nd gear, and we're just trying to pick up this sort of straight line as we come through, and I've got a Lamborghini absolutely twitching to get past, so we're going to let him past. I've got 10 other cars in this session. Braking, just there's like a little scuff on the curb just there, all the way down to 2nd gear, and we're going to try and roll through this section as carrying as much momentum as we can, getting the car nice and straight, and then accelerating off the corner. I'll probably switch down to traction control 1 as well, and then back up to 6. Braking at this board, or just before the board really, all the way down to 1st gear. I've got the BMW just at my rear end. I've got a whole gaggle of cars coming past here. So we'll try and get some temperature back in these tyres and start turning the lap a little bit. So just braking at the board, down 2 shifts. Accelerating out. Temperatures are looking a bit greener on the brakes, but tyres are a long way off. 2 shifts down. You can see already I've got no temperature in my tyres. Let's just start the lap again with a bit more temperature there. So don't have to stick to that speed limit coming out the pit. Not when you're offline. I would like them to adjust that as well, and the white line penalty coming out of the pits. Should definitely be a penalty. So a bit of brake, turning in. You can already feel how horrible this car is to drive in the aggressive setup. Really, the rear end's wanting to overtake straight away. Two shifts down, shift down as you come over the hill, picking up that inside curve and then back on the power. You can see I've already changed actually to traction control 6, but usually it's on 4 in the aggressive setup. really bouncy and twitchy. The suspension's way too hard in my opinion. So always just trying to carry as much momentum around there as you can. Really twitchy off the corner, the rear end wanting to overtake. Lots of understeer. Gentle on the power coming out. Let's try and go for a better lap. As soon as I get the power down, the rear end's just wanting to step away. So I really got to feed the power in progressively. Very twitchy at the rear again. Again, just how I'm used to putting the power down. I really have to think about how I'm delivering the power in the aggressive setup. Just have to really be progressive on the power. Very, very twitchy. We can see a plane coming into land just there. Definitely not a little microlight, is it? So just really progressive on that power. And a terrible lap time really. Probably don't need to run that wide. A better line. Much better line really. Obviously tyre pressures aren't perfect just yet. Car really is bouncing through there. Just didn't get it slowed down enough. And then really ginger trying to get the wheels straight. So into the 29s, 129. Slightly better exit. So we're going to try and stick through this section with third gear. Really carry more momentum. Look how much time we've saved. Not so good through there. Front end just didn't want to turn through. Much more speed carried through there. Much more speed carried through there. A much better lap. 28s. Much more speed carried through turn 1. So the key is to try and stay in third gear through this section. Just use the brake pedal. Very hard, as you can see. Just sort of how unstable the car is. Really doesn't suit my driving style at all. So key areas for me. As you can see, the car's just way too stiff. Let's return back to the garage and just have a look at some of the areas that we can adjust. So obviously we've got, I think we can use 5 more degrees of camber, and we've got 3.5 at the rear. If we look at the current rules in GT3, I think you're allowed 4.5 at the front, 3.5 at the rear. So we can add a little bit more camber, which is going to help. One of the downsides to the McLaren is the caster angle. It hasn't got a very big caster angle, so the weight of the wheel is generally quite light. I've added more feedback to my wheel just because it's harder to feel what the car's doing. So one thing I would do if you're driving the McLaren is just try and make your wheel a little bit more force feedback. The traction control for me, you've got to really be thinking about coming off the corner and how you're delivering the power. So in my eyes, I would prefer to use 6 in the traction control. I just feel like I can get on the power at any point, and I'm not really going to light the rear tyres up too much. It's all about not wanting to lose any traction coming off the corners. But I will be flicking between traction control 1 and 6 to try and get the best exit. The brake balance for me, again, it just feels like it's rotating the car too much. And I know in the PC version of these games, I see people using like 43, 42, 40, 54, sorry, 52, 53, 54, something like that. But for me, it just rotates the car way too much for console. Obviously, the steering ratio is very, very small as well. Usually, I started around here and it's very unresponsive, the steering, but gradually started to bring it back down, and it is somewhere around there in the setup that I've used. But as you can see, the suspension, both at the rear and at the front of the car, is very stiff. So there's certainly areas of that I have adjusted to try and get more rotation as well coming off some of the corners, especially the slow hairpins. You're really wanting each wheel to turn independently. You're not really wanting to try and lock the wheels. Obviously, when the outer tyre is going a further distance around a curve, the inside tyre has got to move slower. So the outer tyre has got a longer distance. It's going to want to rotate much more. So in order to bring that effect into fruition, really, we reduce the differential so that each wheel can turn more independently. And I took that all the way down and completely down, just to try and get the car to rotate better. For me, there's just a lot going on with the dampers here. The fast bump damping as we come through a lot of the chicane sections is just super stiff. And if you imagine like this, I just try and imagine what the suspension is doing. So the bump stiffness is going up into the arch, and then the rebound is coming back. So it's like a really stiff. You just want it to flow more as it's coming through there. You're not wanting it to be so juddery as you come through, I think. And for me, that's how I sort of try and envisage the bump and rebound is stiff because we're not wanting the car to roll around too much. But when it's hitting curbs and stuff, we're wanting it to sort of flow over the bumps rather than jump over the bumps. So for me, I'm really wanting to bring the the fast bump kind of right the way down. And I still don't know, because we haven't got Motec, whether we should be adjusting it to 2 times what the fast bump is, whether it should be level with the fast bump, whether it should be half of the fast bump. It really is just how the car feels to you at this stage while we've got no telemetry. And then moving to the aero balance, I just tried to bring the car as low as I can, but I don't think it's much difference to this, and trying to give the car more stability at the rear of the car so that we can really throw the car in. It's all about consistency, remember. It doesn't matter if you can do 1 fast lap, unless you're just trying to do hot lap sessions and you are just going for that 1 fast lap. But I've tried to create a setup where I can be consistent, and I did post an image of the lap times that I set during a session. I went out and did a full tank's worth of petrol and then came back in, did another full tank's worth of petrol, and it did feel really stable, the setup that I was using. It might not be the fastest setup, but if you can be fast and consistent, it really is going to bring on your driving. So we're going to have to swap to the controller settings here, come back into the game, and I can load up the setup that I used, as you can see, to set the 127.6, and that was at 26 Celsius, so it is a tiny bit cooler how we've got it just now. I'll come back out so that I don't have to do this again, and we'll just change the to the wheel settings. So back into the controls and back to the wheel. The other things that I will point out in here, as you can see, I don't assign many buttons to my wheel because I tend to use the MFD function quite a lot. But obviously we've got look left, look right, and change camera positions, save replay, which doesn't actually work. But the 2 buttons that I have assigned to my wheel are traction control 1 and 6. So we've got a nice little gap around the circuit. Hopefully we can just get out. In fact, I'll run through the adjustments that I've made to this setup that we're going to be using. So slight adjustments on the toe angle to try and get the car to be more darty, really. It just gives the car more focus turning into the corners, a little bit more toe. I did try this up at 3, but it didn't seem to be as good as I thought it would be. The adjustments in the Bentley to the toe angle, the less toe the better in the Bentley, but it did seem to have a little bit of a positive effect, but adjusting it to 3 didn't have that much of an effect that I wanted it at 3. It didn't seem to be a massive difference. Obviously we've got the cambers maxed out, the casters are maxed out, tyre temperatures might need a slight adjustment for the temperatures that we've got now. As you can see, I brought down the ABS just 1 click, just to try and get more positive braking. Obviously we're running brakes 1, but the big differences start to come on this page. As you can see, we've slightly added a bit more on the brake bias so that we're not so rearward. Very much softened the suspension, brought the bump stop all the way down as well. I mean, it has quite a big effect. I think if we watch the red line, it has quite a big effect. Even just moving it 1 click, it does separate from the bump stop quite a lot. Obviously you can see the rear of the car again, much softer than it was, I think, initially. The bump stops are set so that the rear end of the car is much harder than the front, which there's so much oversteer going on in this car. I don't understand why you would have it that way. Again, massive changes in the dampers. For me, it's just all about trying to get that car to be more compliant over the bumps. Try and balance the oversteer and the understeer. And there is a lot to these setups. I've probably spent 3 hours, maybe 4 hours setting this car up on numerous sessions, just trying to find that consistency. And not a huge difference in ride height. I think I've just one click up on the rear end, but I did bring this all the way up. It was much higher than it initially is, just to try and get it more compliant over the curbs. But obviously it starts to have a detrimental effect on how the car's cornering and how maneuverable the car is. So there are all the adjustments that I've made. So let's just see if we can turn some consistent laps. Just get my eye in. Hopefully we'll hit a 27 during this session. If you're not subscribed to the channel as well, please do hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button as well if you're enjoying the content. I've tried not to make the car so it doesn't rotate at all. Because we still need that. Especially through here, the car really does feel like it's understeering a lot. Doesn't matter what the setup is, I cannot stop the car understeering us through that section really. And I did try to hold on to third gear through here, try and carry momentum, wiping out that cone. Not sure I've hit the tyre, but I think if you could carry third gear through there, it would certainly give you more lap time, but I don't seem to be able to carry it through there without just bouncing over the next set of curbs. I watch people on PC and they all seem to be running through there in third gear, but I just don't seem able to carry it. So I'm much less scary about putting the power down. You see we're already up 1/10. So a little bit too wide there. Just didn't get the entry. But that delta's always telling you something as well. Always good to have the delta there. Very deep. So just coming off there, you see I'd switched to TC1, back to TC6. So I still think I've set a good lap with the aggressive setup. And again, the car does still rotate, so I don't think it won't catch you out. It is a very technical circuit. Always looking at that delta. Doesn't seem like it was too bad now, does it? The aggressive setup. So much time gained in turn 1 though. Not the best line either. Very out of shape. I'm just missing the apex completely. Really, it's a tough circuit. Definitely looks like the aggressive setup was better than I thought it was. Definitely not through turn 1 though. So much time going through turn 1. Still not being on the power as early as I'd like to be. I'm not managing to hold third gear. Just too much of that curb there, way too much. But much more compliant through there. Oh, lots of understeer. Just trying to adapt to the setup really. Still taking 2/10 really each time through turn 1. Just trying to get the braking point for this one. Much better, but really did back off there. It's almost like you have to wait for this circuit. Nearly there, isn't it? Terrible exit.
Well done, mate. Personal fastest lap.
such a tricky corner, really is. Just trying to get the car slowed down for that chicane really is hard. So much time lost on the exit of that corner as well. Always looking at that delta. Very slidey on the exit. Feel the rear end just slipping away. Oh, come on. So close.
Well done, mate. This has been your personal best.
But at least you can see it is pretty consistent. Oh, we're out of fuel. I never even noticed it. I was just so enthralled with just doing more laps. Well, there we have it. An hour's worth of footage, all in the attempt to try and get into that 127s, and failed miserably. As you could see, it's definitely on a number of occasions, but I guess it's just either not my circuit or just not my day. Trying to find the speed through that chicane and the balance of the car throughout this whole circuit is a tough order. But hopefully I'll thin this down because there's a lot of failed attempts in there, and hopefully you'll walk away with a fairly consistent setup. But yeah, it's a tough one. Thanks for watching. Ciao for now.